Okay, let's be honest for a second. Opening a math textbook can feel like you're trying to decipher some ancient secret code, right? It's dense, it's packed with symbols, and it is definitely not like kicking back with a good novel. But what if it didn't have to be that way? In this explainer, we're going to demystify this whole process and give you the tools to read mathematics with confidence. And yeah, maybe even a little enjoyment.
So, let's jump right in with a question that I think, if we're being honest, most of us would say yes to. When you crack open that textbook, do you find yourself skipping all those paragraphs of text and just jumping straight to the problems that are already solved? You know, the worked examples? It's such a common strategy. But what if I told you it might be the single biggest thing holding you back from really understanding the material? So here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about why this is such a common struggle, why we all feel this way. Then, we'll break down what makes a math book a totally different beast from anything else you read. After that, we'll build your active reading toolkit. And finally, we'll get to my favorite part, one simple change to how you practice that could completely change the game for you. All right, let's get into our first section. I really want to start here, just to validate something you've probably felt a million times. If reading your math textbook feels uniquely and sometimes painfully difficult, you're not crazy, and you are definitely not alone.
And here's the key idea, which I think is pretty liberating. Research shows that for a ton of students, the hurdle isn't a lack of math ability at all. Nope. The real problem is that no one ever taught us how to read this very specific, very strange type of text. It's a skill, plain and simple, and just like any other skill, it's something you can absolutely learn.
Which, brings us right to section 2. To learn this skill, you got to know the rules of the game first. Because a math textbook, it isn't just a book about math. In a very real way, it's written in the language of math.
Just think about how different it is. When you read a history book, you can kind of skim, you get the main ideas, you read from page 1 to page 2, pretty straightforward. But in a math book, oh no. Every single word, every symbol, every little piece of punctuation has a precise, locked-in meaning. And the concepts are so dense that you can't just read front to back. You have to read forwards, then backwards, look at a diagram, all just to understand one line.
Yeah, this really breaks it down. A math text has basically zero redundancy. You know how in a novel an author might describe a feeling 3 different ways? A math text says something once, with perfect precision, and that's it. It's built on cold, hard logic, not a narrative, which means you have to actively work to see how one sentence logically proves the next.
And that brings us to this crucial idea, the stipulated definition. This is so important. When a math book defines, say, a vector, it's not just describing the general vibe of what a vector is. It's laying down a strict, unchangeable rule. It's not a suggestion, it's a law. And every single clause in that law has to be satisfied, or it's not a vector, period.
Now, let's put that next to what's called our concept image. This is our version. It's our personal, internal, and often pretty fuzzy mental picture of what a vector is. It's all the examples we've seen, the shortcuts we've made, even the feelings we have about it. It's useful, for sure, but a lot of the time it's incomplete, or even a little bit wrong. And this right here is the conflict that causes so many headaches and wrong answers. We try to solve problems using our fuzzy, informal concept image when the problem demands the strict, formal, stipulated definition. So really, the whole point of reading your textbook is to slowly, carefully shape your personal concept image until it perfectly matches that official, formal definition.
Okay, so we get the problem. Now for the good stuff. What do we do about it? In section 3, we're going to stop being passive spectators and start being active readers with a whole toolkit of strategies. Let's start with 3 basic, non-negotiable rules of survival. Rule number 1, never, ever read math without a pencil and paper in your hand. I'm serious, just don't do it. Rule 2, always do a quick preview. Skim the headings, the intro, the summary, get a mental map of the terrain before you dive in. And rule 3, be patient with yourself. Rereading a single sentence 5 times doesn't mean you're bad at math. It means you're doing it right.
I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? It's perfect. You can't learn how to swim by watching Olympic swimming on TV, and you can't learn math by just watching the textbook do the problems for you. You have to jump in the pool, you have to struggle and splash around, and do the work yourself.
This gets at a huge difference between novices and experts. Experts are constantly doing what's called metacognition, the thinking about their own thinking. They're always asking themselves, wait, do I really get this, or am I just nodding along? They do this because they know that one tiny little misunderstanding on page 2 can snowball into a total catastrophe by the time you get to page 20.
So let's make this real for a second. Think about it. What's one simple thing you could do right now to check if you truly get an idea? Could you explain it out loud to an empty room? Could you make up your own example from scratch? That is the kind of self-check we're talking about.
All right, here are some powerful, concrete things you can add to your toolkit. I want to highlight a couple of my favorites. When you're looking at a worked example, cover up the steps and try to do it yourself first. And for each line, ask yourself why. Why did they do that? And please, whatever you do, do not skip the paragraphs of text between the examples. That's not filler. That's where the authors explain the big ideas and connect everything together.
Okay, this brings us to our final section, and honestly, this might be the most important one. We've talked about how to read. Now let's talk about how to practice, because there is one simple shift you can make that separates feeling confident from actually being ready for the exam.
I feel like we have all been Sarah. You know this story. You grind through 20 problems from section 5.1 and you feel like a rock star. But then you get to the exam, and the problems are all jumbled up, they're not labeled by section, and suddenly you freeze because you have no idea which method you're even supposed to use.
The name for Sarah's trap is blocked practice. It's doing the same type of problem over and over and over. It feels productive, but it creates this dangerous illusion that you've mastered the material. The solution? It's called interleaved practice, and it's as simple as deliberately mixing up different types of problems in every study session.
And here is the secret to why this is so powerful. Interleaving makes your brain do two things instead of just one. You don't just have to execute the steps to solve the problem. First, you have to look at the problem and choose the correct strategy out of all the ones you know. That act of choosing is the exact skill you need on an exam, and blocked practice never lets you train it.
Researchers have such a great name for this. They call it a desirable difficulty. And let's be super clear, studying this way will feel harder. It will feel slower. You'll probably make more mistakes at first. But that struggle, that difficulty, is what's actually forging stronger, more durable connections in your brain. It leads to way, way better results when it matters most. So to wrap this all up, I'll just leave you with this choice. You have blocked practice, which feels easy and gives you that nice short-term buzz of feeling smart. And you have interleaved practice, which is harder but actually works and gives you real long-term mastery. The easy path or the effective one? For your next study session, the choice is all yours.